This is the new T3 T4 turbo that I had purchased off eBay a long time ago, and today we are going to rebuild the turbo. So it is important to kind of go through each of these bolts and anti-seize on the exhaust housings actually, and then Loctite on these ones. Loctite these in the middle of the cartridge, and also just make sure everything is in its place. Everything is gonna work properly when we throw this on the car, which probably won't be for a little bit, probably when we get the head on the car, which I don't know, I haven't found another head yet, so we're kind of on hold on that. Yeah, we're gonna start tearing this thing apart. You're gonna need, I believe it's just a 13, a 10, maybe an 8, probably just the 13 and the 10, honestly. You're gonna need some anti-seize for the exhaust side. We're gonna need some layout fluid or something to kind of scribe a line from the shaft to the nut to the compressor wheel itself, which also they already did. So you can see, well, I can see that there's a line already going from shaft to nut to the compressor wheel already. Other things you're gonna need: little socket set. I've got the, what is it, 1/4 inch, I believe, socket set. We've also have a 3/8 socket set, a little hammer to kind of loosen up these bolts easier, some snap ring pliers, those are important, and I think that's it. So let's start tearing into this turbo. Right here, of course, this thing does not show it, but there is a scribe line on the compressor wheel. You can see that. Then it goes down the nut, and it actually does go onto the shaft as well. Of course, the camera won't focus. We're probably safe to pull it apart, but I'm going to put one more little bit of layout fluid, and then I'll start separating this housing. Alright, so here is the compressor wheel from this T3 T4. After inspecting this wheel, it is notched right here, looking like they balanced it here, and then also on the bottom it does have a notch right here, and then also a scuff on this edge and a little scuff right here. It looks like they balanced it 100%. They also did the same with the shaft / nut on this side for the exhaust housing, so it does look like it is very well balanced. Everything was marked. It has the scribe line already from factory, so that is a good sign. Alright, so one thing that I did notice is there is no rubber O-ring on this that seals up like the compressor housing to this plate right here, which my last turbo had. This one is significantly smaller on the compressor side, so maybe with the size of the turbo it just doesn't need it, like the TD04 one back here. That one did not have an O-ring around this edge here, just like this one. So yeah, that's something that won't get used. So this one has a red O-ring inside, and that one is for the compressor housing to seal up against this plate, but it doesn't have it. So yeah, interesting. I did also get the back nuts off, or back bolts off, and one of them was like hand tight. The rest of them were pretty tight, but there was one that it took very little effort to get out. So yeah, I'm glad I decided to go into this turbo and kind of rebuild it, just so I can kind of make sure everything is put together properly. So let's split this guy open and see what's inside. Alright, so this is the guy that I really want to replace. It is the 270-degree thrust bearing, and we're going to replace it with the 360-degree thrust bearing. So that was the main thing that I really wanted to change, but we're going to pull the rest of it apart and just see what is going on otherwise inside this turbo. Alright, so this was a gigantic waste of time. The rebuild kit is actually the wrong size. Everything does not fit, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it back together. Everything looks good anyway. We're just gonna throw some Loctite and some anti-seize on this thing and call it a night. So yeah, that was a failure. So it wasn't a total loss. I got to learn that there are two different sizes of T3, T4 turbos, and we got the wrong kit. So we ended up just taking the turbo apart. I did go through, actually pull the shaft all the way out with the turbine wheel and just lube up the shaft, lube up the bearings, and the shaft actually was not sitting in there properly. On this side, you should hear it like click in once it bottoms out, and this turbo came with just like the most little bit of back and forth shaft play. That was like the main reason why I wanted to take this apart. I wanted to inspect just to make sure everything was good inside, and it had just the tiniest little bit of back and forth shaft play that I was a little bit wary about, because on the internet everyone says zero shaft play back and forth. A little bit side to side is normal for a journal bearing turbo, but back and forth not acceptable. So I ended up going through and figuring out why it was doing that, and it was because that little collar seal on the back of the turbine side of the shaft was actually not pressed in all the way, so it was able to rock back and forth. But now since I got that thing seated in there, and it is also lubed up, so there's oil in the journal bearings, everything spins super smooth. Everything is actually very tight, and yeah, I also did go in with some of that layout fluid, this stuff here. So I put it on the inside where the compressor wheel rotates through. So when we initially start it up, we can actually see if it does make any contact, if anything's a little bit off, but it shouldn't, because that thing is like so tight now. So yeah, anyway, a little bit of a better look. So there is now layout fluid in where the compressor wheel travels through, just so during the first few drives we can see that there is no shaft play, the compressor wheel is not hitting the housing, and everything is good to go. It wasn't a total loss. We got to do all of that stuff, and I got to Loctite and throw anti-seize on all of the bolts throughout the turbo, so I'm sure that it's not going to come apart, and if it does come apart, then it is on me and not on my negligence, I guess, for not checking that stuff, which I guess it would still be my negligence for not tightening this stuff, but I would rather have it fail because of me rather than throwing it on and prematurely fail because I didn't check something. So yeah, anyway, that is that part of the video. I also did pick up the oiling kit for it, so here is the oil drain. We've got the oil inlet right here, and I guess we could throw those on, but I'm gonna wait until we get it on the car. Everything should be clocked properly. I actually did go through and kind of clock the turbo how it needs to sit, so it's a bottom mount turbo, and the compressor needs to stick up, and it should fit up. It might be a little bit off, but I'm pretty sure it's close, so I'm gonna leave it like that, and we'll probably just do the oil stuff when it's on the car, just to make life easier. And yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. It was kind of a pointless video because we didn't get to do what I wanted to do, which was install 360 thrust bearing or whatever they're called, and yeah, rebuild the turbo, rebuild a fresh turbo that didn't need to be rebuilt, but it would have been cool anyway, I guess. So I'll see you guys in the next video.